He wasn't Jamaican, he wasn't from the Caribbean, but in Africa, he was bigger than Bob Marley, and when they finally tried to silence him, they did it with a gun. On October 18, 2007, Lucky Dube, South Africa's biggest reggae star, was shot and killed in front of his kids. The official story? A carjacking gone wrong. But fans worldwide still whisper, was it really that simple? This man sold over 1 million albums, used music to fight apartheid, and gave a voice to the voiceless. His songs were banned, his concerts were watched, and then, just when he reached his peak, he was gone. If you've never heard of Lucky Dube, don't worry, because by the end of this story, you'll never forget his name. Hit that like button if truth through music matters to you, and let's uncover the legend they never told you about. Lucky Philip Dube entered a world already stacked against him. Born on August 3, 1964 in the small town of Ermelo, South Africa, he came into a country divided by race, violence, and oppression. He never met his father. Raised by his mother Sarah in deep poverty, he was named Lucky because doctors thought he wouldn't survive birth. Apartheid wasn't just a system, it was a daily prison. Black South Africans couldn't vote, couldn't own land in white areas. Entire families were uprooted without warning, and violence was state-sponsored. Lucky started school at a time when the government made sure black children got less funding, fewer books, and no future. But his mother pushed for education, and Lucky listened. He began working odd jobs at age 9 to support the family, from gardener to mechanic, and music was just a side interest. That is, until he heard Bob Marley. The rhythms caught his ears, but the message? That struck his soul. In Marley, he didn't just hear rebellion, he heard possibility. And suddenly, a boy from the township saw a way to speak that no one could silence. Before reggae, Lucky tried to survive in a more acceptable form of music, mbakanga. He joined a band called the Skyway Band, which later became the Love Brothers. They played cheerful Zulu pop, upbeat songs that avoided politics, pain, or protest. But something inside him kept burning. He felt like he was lying, singing feel-good tunes while his people suffered. So in 1984, Lucky dropped Rastas Never Die, his first reggae album. It was raw, honest, and full of social commentary. And the South African government hated it. The album was banned, pulled from stores, blacklisted from airwaves. Authorities claimed it was subversive. Radio stations received quiet warnings. DJs were told to stay away. And though sales were modest, the message traveled underground, hand to hand, cassette to cassette. Still, Lucky didn't back off. "I didn't choose to be political," he once said. "The situation chose me." His next album, Think About the Children, was a direct answer to the ban. And this time, the people responded. It went platinum. The regime tried to silence him, and instead, they made him famous. By the late 80s and early 90s, Lucky Dube had become more than a local star. He was a continental voice. With albums like Prisoner, Slave, and Together as One, Lucky's fan base exploded beyond South Africa. He toured Zimbabwe, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, and everywhere he went, fans treated him like royalty. His lyrics were fearless. "You think you're smart. You think you're something else. Prisoner, prisoner, that's what you are." He sang of poverty, police corruption, and everyday injustice, all wrapped in smooth rhythms that moved both body and spirit. In 1993, he released Victims, a project so powerful it sold over 1 million copies worldwide. Songs like Victims and Different Colors, One People, became continental anthems. That same year, he signed with Motown, making him one of the first African reggae artists to land a US deal of that level. He performed at massive festivals like Reggae Sunsplash, alongside names like Ziggy Marley and Burning Spear, shared stages with Peter Gabriel, opened for Sinead O'Connor, played in France, Brazil, and even Israel, where his anti-racism message struck deep. In parts of Australia, he was bigger than the Beatles, especially in Aboriginal communities who saw him as one of their own. But the more people he reached, the more threats he received behind the scenes. Lucky's music was beautiful, but it wasn't safe. He exposed apartheid's cruelty with no filter. "They won't build no schools anymore. All they'll build will be prison." He called out corrupt politicians in The Way It Is, and pleaded for peace in House of Exile. And unlike many protest artists who mellowed after apartheid officially ended in 1994, Lucky stayed sharp. He noticed how some of the new leaders quickly adopted the same oppressive tactics. "Whether it's black or white behind the trigger, the pain feels the same," he once said. This made him both loved and feared. To the poor, he was a hero. To the powerful, he was a problem. His concerts were watched, his lyrics dissected, And though censorship loosened, the threats never truly went away. Because Lucky wasn't afraid to say what others wouldn't, and some circles never forgot that. October 18th, 2007. Lucky Dube had just dropped off 2 of his children at their uncle's house in Rosettenville, Johannesburg. As he walked back to his Chrysler, 2 men approached. Armed. Aggressive, they shot him in the chest. Point blank. His children, just feet away, witnessed everything. Police called it a botched carjacking. They claimed the attackers didn't recognize him and panicked. But for many, that didn't sit right. Lucky was driving a high-end car in a dangerous area. That's true. But so were thousands of others, including politicians, moguls, and celebrities, who were left untouched. So why him? Soft speculation grew fast. Was it really random? Or was it a warning? Could someone have used common criminals to send a message? A few fans claimed Lucky had spoken about death threats in private conversations months before. Others noted that political heat around his lyrics had quietly escalated again. Authorities dismissed all conspiracy. 3 men were arrested, tried, and sentenced. Case closed. But the whispers never stopped. Because when a voice becomes too powerful, history has a way of silencing it. Lucky Dube wasn't the first reggae legend taken too soon, and he wouldn't be the last. Bob Marley died at just 36. After a fast-moving cancer doctors couldn't stop. But to this day, conspiracies still swirl. Some claim the cancer may have been induced, or neglected, as a way to silence a man whose lyrics were starting revolutions. And that wasn't the only attempt. Marley was shot in 1976, just 2 days before a peace concert in Kingston. He survived, but the message was clear. Someone wanted him gone. Lucky Dube died at 43, in a so-called carjacking. But like Marley, his music was bold, political, and impossible to ignore. And just like Marley, he was silenced before his time. 2 legends, 2 different continents, 1 truth. Their voices still speak, even if someone didn't want them to. Even in death, Lucky Dube's music wouldn't go away. He left behind 22 studio albums, hundreds of songs, thousands of live performances, many now legendary. His work is still played at weddings, funerals, protests, and community rallies across Africa. School teachers use his lyrics to teach English. Taxi drivers blast his records during rush hour. Young rappers sample him, DJs remix him, and radio stations still replay his ballads. His daughter, Lucky Dube, carries on the mission. With dreadlocks, stage presence, and a fusion of soul and reggae, she keeps his spirit alive in every performance. And modern artists, from Burna Boy to Chronix, call Lucky Dube a foundational influence. His message lives on, not just because of his words, but because of the system he exposed. And every year, more people discover that Africa had its own Marley, and his name was Lucky. Despite all this, Lucky Dube's name rarely shows up in Western music history. No Netflix documentary, no Grammy tribute, no Rolling Stone legacy list. Some say he was too African for the mainstream, too raw, too real. Others believe the industry just didn't know how to market someone who spoke painful truth with no filter. Whatever the reason, his legacy didn't fade. It just went underground. Now, in the age of TikTok and YouTube, a new generation is discovering him. Clips of Prisoner and Different Colors One People go viral in waves. Young listeners post reaction videos with the same question: why didn't I know about this guy sooner? And that question is the legacy of Lucky Dube. He was never meant to be forgotten. Lucky Dube wasn't just a reggae star. He was a truth teller, a warrior, a messenger. He used rhythm to fight racism. He used harmony to call out hypocrisy. And he turned pain into prophecy for the millions who couldn't speak for themselves. His story isn't just about music. It's about what happens when art dares to challenge power. It's about what's lost when the world looks away. And it's about what survives, even after the voice is gone. So if this story hit you, share it, pass it on. Let Lucky Dube's name ring louder than ever. Legends and lyrics, where the music lives on.